And now let's welcome to the stage Ross Finman from Niantic.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here, and thanks, Edward, for hosting this. So I'm part of the AR leadership within Niantic, and a lot of the virtual beings that everyone's talking about, a lot of them begin to make more sense in augmented reality. Now, Niantic is starting off the company more on the gaming side, which is interactive entertainment. So I'm going to be focusing a lot today on what are the different stages and levels of interactivity as we move from gaming in a pure digital context to this integrated physical digital world that is the world that we live in today, that AR begins to connect to there. So to start with, we want to look at this at a large scale. This is actually real locations that people are playing augmented reality games through Niantic right now. So this is flying over across Europe here. But then, at Niantic, we care a little less about, okay, what can you do on a tabletop? How do you make tabletop gaming interactive? But how do you really make the entire world as an AR game board that people can begin to play with? So what is interactivity at the scale of the planet as you walk around and travel throughout the world? And really, a lot of this is just kind of getting into that extra layer, kind of what is behind the curtain of your everyday life. So what we want to do is really begin to define the different problems that you can have in this interactive world. So really, we can break this down into different levels on how we approach the problem. So if you want to begin kind of saying, like, here's the spectrum of interactivity that you can have, and where are we at today, and where is this all going? Particularly like on mobile phones right now, we'll talk more in detail about what can you do now versus kind of what is the new technology that you can begin to touch at in the future. So the first level is more of an overlaying context. So most people think of this as like kind of the traditional kind of what Pokemon Go first launched with. It began to just overlay different content on top of the world. Now this helped fulfill the fantasy for people that, hey, there's actually like Pokemon running around in there, and made a really fun experience that got hundreds of millions of people all around the world going and chasing after it. But then from a technological standpoint, it was really just the first step in what we're seeing there. Now it really made for a lot of fun experiences, people taking a lot of really great pictures. So then the human here applied the context that you could have in the world. So someone else just got it in the back. So then you can apply on top of the context of the world, but then this was the human deciding that. So this was kind of a first level, which made it really fun and engaging at the beginning. But then once people kind of fulfilled the fantasy, then they kind of took fun pictures with it, then they moved on. So next, and this gets us, so that was 2016. Now fast forward to 2017, you get into what is now called more anchoring. So connecting content to the specific location in the real world. So this was the launch of ARKit and ARCore in the summer of 2017, which was a really exciting time for the whole AR industry, as like the major giants kind of first publicly showed that, hey, they're moving in that direction. But what this allowed is you can have interactions that are connected to the real world. So this is in a gaming context. Hey, the Snorlax is in there. You can walk up to it, and it's a little bit easier to catch them. People could pose with different Pokemon that they had. There's different Snapchat filters. People could have IKEA furniture that you could see in the real world. And there's some like nice lighting effects that you can do on it to make it a little bit more real, but more anchored to the location. So the illusion that this interactive entertainment is actually connected in there got it one step further. But this is like still, it's just sitting there. It's connected to a particular pose in the world. The next level of interactivity, which is what we're beginning to get into today on mobile phones and even outside of it, is interacting. So how do you bring in the content of the real world? So this is in a pure gaming context. If you think about, oh, you need to create all the digital content that you have out there, now you're starting to kind of use the real world and digitizing the real world to begin to have content in there. So that can take two different forms. One is kind of these chairs can be brought into the game where you can like throw balls at them and they bounce off in weird ways. Another more interesting way is if you can begin to bring in people into the games themselves. So then here you can actually have different people as they're walking around in the real world. You can interact with them, you can shoot at them, and then you can even like detect different parts of them now with new technology that's out there. Then you can like actually begin to treat the other people, and this is in a multiplayer, as content for the games that can change the different gameplay, the strategies. So if you shoot at one person, then they can dodge to the left, and then, or if you can have the content of the ground where you can pick up different things around different areas inside this warehouse at the moment, then this kind of offers a next level of interaction that you can have by beginning to interface with there. So this is what is currently the cutting edge and being explored right now. What I find really interesting is as we get into long term, how do we affect the reality that we're in? And this, I believe, begins to connect the kind of physical and digital. So right now, a lot of the technology is focused on how does the digital kind of affect the physical, but then how can you get the physical world to affect the digital world? And then you can have that kind of circle where it begins to make things more real, things become connected to the different objects that you have. And this can also have like very, very cool visual effects. So this was a demo that we did earlier this year where you can actually bring in the objects of the world and begin to affect them in a way that virtually, or from the digital device, like looks like it's real. But then this was shot on mobile devices in real time. And we're just beginning to scratch the surface of that. But where this is all going, since the music is starting up, is kind of making the whole world this imaginative area that you can begin to play with as you turn Earth into an AR game board, and having all the different experiences that you can have. You can really have wonderful, amazing, delightful experiences in the real world. So with that, thank you very much.